Alright, hey VT. In our last video we took an image from Google's satellite image from Google Earth. We took it into Photoshop and we created this sort of symmetric design using 4 copies of the same square image. Now we're going to take that, we're going to bring it into Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to open up Adobe Illustrator and we're going to go to File, Open, and we're going to open up our Photoshop document. When we open up a Photoshop document in Illustrator, it goes into this welcome window and it asks us if we wanted to bring it in and convert the layers or flatten layers. We want to flatten the layers into a single image. So I'm going to click that. It's going to open it up as a flattened image. And now what I can do is I can select this image by clicking on it with the black arrow tool. It's called the selection tool. And up here at the top in your control panel, you have the option to image trace. It converts the image into a tracing object. Basically, it means it's changing it from a bitmap image with pixels to a vector image that's made up of paths and anchor points. Let me show you. We can click on this down arrow and it gives you a lot of options for live tracing. The option that I'd like you guys to choose is called color 6 or 6 colors. It changes this image from all these different values to just 6 values. So it simplifies the image down to 6 shades of gray. Once it's finished, you'll see that the image has been drastically simplified. And when you zoom in, you can see that it no longer has those pixels anymore. It has these nice clean sort of shapes, and that's the vector look. Okay, so once it creates that, we can't really select anything yet because we first have to expand it. So when it creates the vectors, we first have to expand. Now we can see all the anchor points and paths that make every single little shape. So it looks very chaotic, but all these little bumps, and I'll zoom in again, are anchor points, and all the paths that connect those anchor points basically is telling the computer those are like the mathematical building blocks that make each shape. So they don't print. The image actually looks like this, but when we click on it, we can see all the math that goes behind the shapes. So when we select anything in here right now, everything is grouped together. So that's problematic if we want to color this. So I right click and I ungroup everything. And now when I click off and click back onto a shape, or deselect and then select a shape, I can select one shape at a time. This is what I need to do in order to color. But before we start coloring, I'm going to save. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as my last name, road trip, gray. Now that we have that saved, what we're going to do is we're going to start to color. So when you select one area of gray, you can certainly change this one shape at a time by selecting one shape, double clicking on the color here in the swatch, and then picking a color and hitting OK. There's one shape at a time. But however, that would take a really long time. So I'm going to undo, Control Z, and I'm going to select one shape, come up to Select, and I'm going to select Same Fill Color. When I do that, it selects all the shapes that are the same fill color at one time. So now it selected all these shapes. Now I can select a color and hit OK, and it changes all of those at once. So I told it to be 6 colors or 6 shades of gray, so I should only have to do this 6 times, and then the whole thing will be colored. So I'm going to press pause, and I'm going to... Okay, so I'm back, and I was able to color this pretty easily by clicking on each image and going to select same 6 times, and now I've got everything is in color. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this one as my last name, road trip. This one's going to be my color. I'm going to hit save. Now I have a list of different color schemes that I want you guys to try to get to. Once everything is in color, it's easy to recolor everything. You can select everything by hitting Control A on the keyboard or by going to Select All. It's the same thing, Control A or Select All. It's the same option. Now everything is selected, and there's this little wheel, this little recolor artwork wheel up at the top of your screen in the control panel. So if we click on that, we then have the option to recolor everything at once. So inside of this little drop-down arrow, here, you see that there are all these are what's called color schemes. And so we can scroll through here and we can find the different color schemes that are listed on the blog, like complementary. There's a couple different complementary color schemes. You can also see that there's an edit button here, and this allows you to see the color wheel, which is helpful to see how the color scheme works. So a complementary color scheme are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. And you can sort of edit these a little bit to get it the way you want it to. But obviously, you want to keep the colors across from each other on the color wheels because that's what a complementary color scheme is. Um, there's a lot of things you can do in here to play around with color. So go ahead and have some fun in here, and when you're done, hit OK. When you're finished, save file, save as, and each time you save a color scheme, make sure you write down the name of the color scheme in the file. So this would be complementary, and I can hit OK, so that I remember which one is which. So hit OK, and then I save it. So you guys go ahead and finish up recoloring this image, and each time save it. Make sure you put the name of the color scheme in each file. Thanks a lot for listening. Have fun.